And we are live.
Hey, beautiful people.
Welcome to episode 53, I think.
Yep.
Episode 53. Jesus.
No Jesus, but plenty of other spirits.
Oh, before we get started, speaking of, since I'm seeing you pouring, what are you drinking tonight?
Couple of them. I'm actually pouring out my offerings because I'm an awesome co-host. So I've got the Viking Blood. I've also got Charm City Meadworks Sweet Blossom Mead.
Okay.
So the Viking Blood is a honey wine with dried hibiscus and ginger. The Charm City Meadworks is a semi-sweet barrel-aged honey wine. 12% alcohol by volume for the Charm City. Viking Blood is, I forget, I think it's similar.
No, I think it's like 20.
Is it 20? It might be 20. You might be right.
I'm like 90% sure it's like 18 plus.
I like this shit. I'm not actually seeing the fucking thing on here at the moment. So if I find it, I'll let you know. But,
yeah, we can look
here it is. Yep, 19%. You were right.
Yep.
And then I've got Bunratty Mead, which is Irish medieval banquet style mead with it's a white wine with honey.
Okay.
So 14.7 alcohol by volume.
I've seen that around, and I think I've heard good things, so I'm interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm curious, and I need to get her hair. I have a Desir Save Kona figure whose hair was in this wine glass. I will show her to the audience in just a moment. Here we are.
Yes.
Yeah, she is awesome.
So, I am drinking similarly several things, actually. I'm starting with Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve, which is a small Scotch finished in Caribbean rum casks.
Nice.
Then I will likely switch to, I'm going to try to pronounce this, and I'm going to butcher it. Auchen Potion? I don't know. It's another Scotch. A single malt Scotch finished in bourbon casks. Also very tasty. And then, depending on how things go for the night, I will possibly wrap up the night and possibly just drink it during the after party. Redbreast Cask Strength, which is my new second favorite whiskey of all time. Yeah. So, yep. Also, hello everyone. We have a lot of people in the audience already. So we've got Melkor, Emily Streaking Faye, Destiny B, and Snow. I don't know what Snow is referencing with feeling blue, but
your hair.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing that I forget constantly. Also applies to myself. I forget that I have blue hair. Literally every time I'm not actually seeing I have blue hair. And then I'll be like, why are people looking at me weird as I'm at work in a very, very rural hospital? And I'm like, oh, right, I have bright blue hair. That's a thing.
Yeah, one of these things is not like the other, Cookie Monster.
It's fine.
So which one were you starting with there?
That's the Glenlivet, the Caribbean rum cask. Which is very nice.
I am starting with the Charm City out of just kind of keep my meads clear here, so to speak.
Fair enough. All right, so I'm going to jump into the prayer real quick.
Oh, please do. Excuse me. Oh, damn, that's good.
Hail to the spirits in the glass. Hail to the spirits in whose honor we started this show. Hail to the spirits who bring us together every month. Hail to the spirits who help us share wisdom and folly, often in equal measure, laughter and sorrow and pride. Hail to the spirits who loosen the tongue and make us slur and stumble. May you teach us wisdom. May we be wise in consuming you. May you help our bleary eyes see and bless us so that we wake up without aching heads. Thank you, Holy Ones. Pack warm you and keep you. Pack warm us and keep us all.
Let's do it.
Wow.
Indeed.
So, it's been a minute.
It has. And I very specifically did not go over like what was going on with you because that's entirely your business, whether or not you share it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Long story short, Sarenth was in the hospital and a relative of mine died recently. So it was kind of like if I could stop getting kicked in the dick by Earther for just a hot minute, that'd be great.
Yeah. Here's hoping.
I mean, you know, it's life.
Yeah.
Oh, little side tangent. They have the friggin' Futhark on the bottles of Viking Blood now.
Yeah, when they did the bottle revamp, they put the Futhark on all of them.
It's neat.
All of
I like it.
Yeah, all of their bottles have the I believe it's the Elder Futhark on there.
Nope.
Is it the younger?
It-
I'd have to look again.
yeah, you know what? It's not. It's the younger.
Okay.
Because
Fair
they've got, otherwise they have two Nalfies side to side.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Although I'm shit at younger Futhark, so I'll have to brush up and because I'm pretty sure one of them is the A and the other is the O, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know. Snow says plot twist, it's the medieval Futhark.
Honestly, I wouldn't put it past them. I just think
Yeah,
it's
I
neat.
wouldn't either. All right. So we have a bunch of listener questions. Did you want to jump into that?
Yeah, what the hell? Why not?
Were there any favorites you had, or do you want to just like start at the beginning?
I kind of want to just start at the beginning because I
Okay.
like all of them. They're pretty good.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, so we've got a whole list from Melkor, and they said just pick and choose what we want, but I'm gonna go down the whole thing because, you know, you ask questions, you get answers. So what is bringing you joy right now, mundane and or spiritual?
Go for it.
I'm really enjoying both the fact that there is sun outside now, and also the fact that I have AC for the first time in a year and change. So it's both nice out and also when it gets hot, I have the option to not be, which is especially important when I sleep because if I'm hot, I cannot sleep. So you know,
Same.
being able to sleep at night in the summer is, yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, for myself, on a mundane level, honestly, this show, like, I haven't been like drinking too much. I don't usually drink too much in between shows, like, so I've been kind of really looking forward to this because, you know, we went through a little bit of a buying spree with the anticipation that we'd be doing this last month, and so I've been kind of like, all right, get on. So I do get a real kick out of doing this show and doing around Grandfather Fire. But you know, that's also is a spiritual thing for me too. So it's kind of a cheat question for me. From a mundane level, there's so much in my life that isn't mundane. I've been really I've been playing a lot of Stardew Valley lately.
Oh, neat.
Like, the 1.6 update hasn't rolled out for the Switch yet, so I've been enjoying the 1.5 whatever update that was distributed through Nintendo. I've got it for the PC and I've got it for mobile, but what I've been enjoying it most on is the Switch. It's just the format of the Switch is just it's nice.
Yeah.
So that's my mundane pleasure, but spiritually speaking, a lot of my pleasure has been being able to really rely on community and let people know, hey, I'm going through some struggles, and people not only responding, but responding in ways that I need. And that has been really affirming.
Good.
Yep.
I'm glad. Yeah. All right. What is your favorite devotional activity? Is it stagnant? I don't think they actually meant stagnant. I think they meant more like stable. Or does it change each time you do it?
So my favorite devotional activity?
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite devotional activity is writing prayers. I mean, it's part of my Patreon. So like every month brings something new.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, sometimes it's the challenge of how do I bring forward a different facet of this god or goddess? If it's a god or goddess that I know, or especially if it's a god or goddess I don't know, getting that raw interaction with them, because I might do a little bit of research, but I don't generally like do a dissertation on each god before I sit down and do a prayer. So for me, making prayers is like my key devotional like activity that it's constantly, it's stable in that my approach is very similar, but it's always dynamic because it's never really to the same god twice,
Right.
or the same aspect.
And direct spirit interaction is always going to be changing.
Right. Exactly.
See, for myself, favorite devotional activity, probably right now is a combination of singing, which has been coming up for me a lot with revelry stuff and a couple of other spirits, but singing has been a big thing. When I remember, not that that's, often. And getting back into the garden, because I'm trying to get it. It's not going as well this year as it did last year. One, I think it's rabbits, but either rabbits or squirrels got into almost all of my plants as soon as I got them in the ground and dug them up like literally 48 hours later.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, so I have out of the 15 some plants that I got in the ground at first, a grand total of 4 are maybe 6 are still around.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to get some more because I mostly planted tomatoes, a couple of other things. All of my native tobacco that I had planted gone.
Oh, that sucks.
It does. I have plenty more seeds, so I can start more if I can. But yeah, all the ones that I had germinated in the house and gotten transferred out, gone.
Were they taken, or were they just didn't make it?
They were dug up. Whatever got into my plants dug up the tobacco and most of my tomatoes.
Oh, so little foraging bastards got to them.
Yeah. I think I've got 2 surviving tomato plants so far, out of like 12.
Oh man.
Yeah. So hopefully at some point soon I'll run down to a nursery and get some more. Because it's too late for me to like start anymore. But
right.
It happens. But I've got a couple of plants that I was really excited about that are seem to be taken off pretty well. So that's nice. And it does change both of these tasks change each time I do it, right? I'm constantly singing differently. I actually interestingly find that I sing slightly better, not well. I do not have a lovely singing voice. My singing voice is not good. But I do find that it is a bit better when I'm doing it devotionally, and I think that's because I care less. and so it becomes a bit more natural. And obviously, gardening is different every single day you go out there, right? It's quite literally things are changing. Um,
If things aren't changing, either something is wrong or
Yeah.
somebody has some explaining to do.
Yep. Um, book recommendations, magical or not magical?
Real quick,
Yes.
the Bun Ratty is really good.
Is it? Nice.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear.
I've had my eye on it for a little bit, and so I highly recommend. Book recommendations. You want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I can. Let's see. For Melkor in particular, I have almost certainly recommended most of these already, but I'm going to again. David Shee's Spirit Voices.
So good.
I recommend that first, followed by Sarangarel's Chosen by the Spirits and Riding Wind Horses. Both also good, but I recommend them in the context of David's book.
Right.
Let's see what else. And honestly, those are good books in general. 6 Ways by Aidan Watcher is quite good. I really enjoyed it. I want to go back through it at some point and read the rest of his stuff. He's got 2 other books that I have not read. Those are all magic books. Non-magical, I know I've recommended this one. Shit. I don't remember the name of it. It's in my... Nope, I've got it up. Hang on.
Oh, good.
This is what I have a million tabs for. The Critical Experience, Literary Reading, Writing, and Criticism by David L. Coles. I actually recommend this for everyone, but especially for Reconstructionist pagans, because critical theory and the ability to read discerningly that book really is a pretty good primer on, is I think the single most valuable tool that I got out of college. Um, and I say that as a person with a biology degree who works in a hospital laboratory, who uses that skill indirectly every day. It's still the single most valuable skill I got, even though it has nothing to do with my career, right? It's especially for Reconstructionist pagans, the ability to read discerningly, to think about texts, not just, like myths or whatever, like to think about texts in the literary sense, which is
Right.
kind of any piece of information, is extremely valuable. And it, quite frankly, should change your life. If it doesn't, you didn't do it right. And that's just a primer book, right? That's not a. It's not
Right.
a deep.
So, real quick for those in the audience who don't know what the fuck critical theory is,
Okay,
or why it matters.
So critical theory is kind of the technical term used in English for how we think about reading, roughly. Like, this is a very kind of broad overview. Um, Reading in this case does not mean actually like reading words on a page. It means processing information. And text generally doesn't necessarily just mean written words on a page. It means any piece of media that you consume, whether that's a speech that you listen to, a TV show that you watch, a poster on a wall is absolutely a text. A play, dance movements, all of these are text. They can all be analyzed in similar ways. Um, Critical theory is kind of the meta analysis, the way that we think about how we think about things. Um, it's broken up into a bunch of different schools. Um, there's common threads through all of them, especially in the modern day, with the rise of first structuralism and modernism, and then post-structuralism and postmodernism. Um, you can't get away from those in the social sciences, at least. Even though you don't like them and you think you got away from them, you didn't. Uh,
No.
and I'm being very literal about that. Like, no, like psychology today is postmodernist. It is.
Right.
Uh, so it's a thing. But there's a lot of kind of underpinnings there that go into a lot of things that we don't even see. And it's really interesting stuff. And it's broken up into a lot of different schools, depending on kind of what you want to focus on, what your background is, and a bunch of other things. A lot of it being kind of what your interest is and whatever your pet project is at the time. That's kind of getting into the nitty gritty of academia politics, but whatever. Inter academia politics, how they fight with each other. But yeah, it's not dissimilar. There are a lot of critical theorists who will be very mad at me if they ever hear me say this, but whatever. I stand by this. It is not dissimilar to epistemology, right? The philosophical. I think I've got that right. Fucking, I hope I do. The way that we think about how we know things philosophically, it's not dissimilar to that, right? It's how we kind of a meta-analysis of how we analyze text, and the various tools that we use to do that.
So you're right. Epistemology is the branch of philosophy concerned with knowledge.
Yeah.
Nature, origin, problems, etc.
Mm. And you get into even stuff like a big part of it is sociolinguistics, and psychology is actually not an insignificant part of critical theory, obviously, because the mind has a lot to do with how we read things.
Just a shit.
My favorites, surprising literally no one, were Marxist theory and which is really poorly named. Marxist theory and mythological approaches. Even though mythological approaches have really fallen out of favor in recent decades, which is unfortunate. And Marxist theory doesn't actually have that much to do with Marx. It's really just like economic and power structures.
Right.
It's basically any power structures that are not gender, sexuality, or race-based are Marxist. But yeah, we're getting into the weeds a bit, and yeah.
I appreciate you taking the bait.
You did. You fully fucking baited me into a ramble, didn't you?
I did.
All right.
You caught me monologuing.
You bastard. All right.
Sorry, YouTube's being difficult for you, Kim. It was good seeing you while you could.
Yep. All right. Fine then. I'm gonna hit you with one. Advice for journey work. I'm struggling and trying to build up the muscles for it.
Oh, I wanted to answer the book question first.
Oh, we'll do that then.
So if you haven't read them, I'm going to throw at least 3 of them at you. Braiding Sweetgrass, Gathering Moss, both by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And then Sand Talk by Tyson Yunkaporter. Excellent books. Excellent books. The other books that I recommend are Bullshit Jobs and The Dawn of Everything by David Graeber, who is unfortunately no longer with us, but I loved his books. You want to talk about an excellent Marxist analysis of class and theory regarding mobility, class, and debt. Excellent. And really good overview of human history, I think.
Nice.
Certainly not the most comprehensive or best, but he is specifically taking it from primarily a class analysis, and I thought it was very well done.
Yeah.
The other one I would recommend is Eduardo Cohn's How Forests Think, Toward an Anthropology of Being Human, Toward an Anthropology Beyond the Human. It's basically some guy went out and sat in the Amazon in the Runa of Ecuador's Upper Amazon. The Runa people.
Yeah.
Fascinating people. Amazing. Just I've got this one on audiobook and I listened to it and I was enraptured every time I sat down to listen because it's just amazing.
Yeah.
To answer this question really quick, nope. Sorry.
Yeah, I've never
even heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brainy Sweetgrass, Dawn of Everything, How Forests Think. So those would be like definitely some nonfiction books that aren't magically related that I would recommend to people. Also, I just finished reading The Norse Sorceress. Holy shit!
Yeah,
it's good. It's an academic text. Like it's dry as a bone. It's dry as a bone.
Gotcha.
But it's really good, and it builds off of stuff that the Viking way has already set down.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's a really neat combination of the written word and written analysis informing the archaeology, much like the Viking way did.
Okay.
And it, in some cases, leans on, and actually one of the sections was written by Price. It was Furcat Foregrave, which is a really interesting one that hasn't been looked at until relatively recently with the depth it has now.
Mm-hmm.
If you're at all interested in magic and sorcery and what the written and especially the archaeological sources can possibly tell us, the thing to remember is at this point, a lot of this shit is speculative.
Yeah.
Like the thing that people like are going to these archaeologists and these written sources and they're like, well, what can we definitely know? Fuck all. That's not how science works.
Yeah. And certainly it's not how archaeology and anthropology work. It's all speculative, especially when you're looking in the past.
Right. Especially when you're talking about like, what sex was this grave? Excellent question. Are we talking about the person who was buried in it first? Or are we talking the person who was buried on top of the person who was buried in it first? How do they relate to each other? Da 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 da. Yeah. So excellent book. Fabulous. Loved it. I've got shitloads of notes. I've got like 40 some odd pages of notes.
We know for sure that they died.
Pretty much. We know for sure somebody stuck in what archaeologists used to call, a lot of these graves have what archaeologists used to call spit roasts, until you look at them and realize some of these are blunt. And they're like, there's no way this could have been a spit roast because it's too goddamn blunt. It's not shaped right. What could this have been? Oh, wait. This looks like a description of what a vulva staff might be.
Huh.
So they're reinterpreting at least some of these graves where they're finding stuff that's survived that's iron.
Yeah.
Because that's the beauty of,
That's the thing we've done quite a lot. Like, it wasn't until not that long ago that what we today call Mjolnirs, Mjolnir pendants, were thought to be anchors or crosses or a bunch of other things. Those are just the two that I can remember, but like they weren't always thought to have been hammers. Like that changed.
No, for most of the history of archaeology, those were looked at as anchors or crosses, just really weird ones.
Yeah.
And then there was a find back in, I want to say 2008, where they actually found a blank where one section would produce Mjolnirs and the other section would produce crosses.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you'd do is you'd heat the metal up and you'd beat them into the mold. Or you'd pour them in. I can't remember if it was beating. I think this one was a beating one, but I can't recall.
It also probably depends on the metal, but yeah.
Yeah, but it was really neat that they're like, well, we're servicing both these communities. Is it a cross? Put it in this side.
Yeah.
So, as far as magical books, I haven't read a whole lot of magical books lately. This is a really good point that Snow just... I haven't read the book, but it's not sharp. Well, no, but it's also been unearthed after how many centuries? So rust, decay. Well, this place had a lot of sediment, not being close to the water. Oh, so to this point, It's not sharp. So there's distinctive features that should be in the metal that aren't there if it was actually going to be used as a spit roast, which is why they're looking at some of these again. And they are cautiously describing these again as possibly being staves instead of being.
Yeah, this is all very speculative based on, I believe X because of X and Y evidence.
Right.
You know. However, I could be wrong because of A, B, and C.
Yeah, it's a lot of the chapters are like that. The cool thing about the Norse Sorceress is it's full color illustrations.
Nice.
So several of these have been reconstructed in photographs or in drawings, but then you got pictures of the actual graves themselves. I mean, I'm both a vegan and someone living in the internet age, so spit roast has different meanings for me, but we're not enough in the show for that. This is true.
Or we'll get there, or at least in the after party.
Right. So those are books I've been reading lately. Unfortunately, I can't really say that I'd recommend any of the magical books I've been reading lately because I don't think I've been reading many magical books in the past year or so.
Yeah, the one book that I'm currently working on, which is not really magical, it's an anthropology work, is Sky Shamans of Mongolia. And I'm only 5 or 6 pages in, so I can't say anything yet. I'm
right.
I haven't had a lot of time to read, so.
Yeah, and a lot of the ones you mentioned, like Riding Wind Horses and Chosen by the Spirits and Spirit Voices, are all ones I'd recommend. But again, you already talked about that.
Yeah.
Hey, Andy.
Nice to see you.
Yay. Glad you made it.
Yep.
So, advice for journey work for Melkor. I'm struggling and trying to build the muscles for it. So, take your time. For some damn reason, when I've been at work, there's this YouTube short guy that I keep running across. He was a bodybuilder in the 70s. And one of the things he keeps reiterating is not doing high intensity strength workouts, but making sure you're doing enough rest. And I know that for anybody who's listening to me say those words, that is much easier said than done.
Yeah. Also, as
Oof.
Sarenth, read books like that when you're writing one. To be fair, Sarenth is also in the it's out to alpha readers. I'm getting to it.
It's not a big deal. I did my part. It's written.
Yeah,
Fuck it.
You got the draft out, and now it's out to the alpha readers, including me. I'm gonna get to it. Honestly, and this is often the case, it's gonna be I get a third the way through and be like, Sarenth, we're just gonna talk because it's easier if I just skim through shit and give you general advice. Because that's the stage you're at right now. Is all right? You got some walls up. Let's see which ones need to be knocked down.
Pretty much, yeah. These aren't load bearing. Kick.
Yep. What needs to be moved around? Oh no, this is gonna fall over. You got to shore that shit up.
So I don't know about you, but this does not work for me because I stay up because it'll push me to stay up.
Yeah, I can't do audiobooks. I do podcasts at night, but it's got to be ones that I've already heard. Because otherwise I'll stay up listening to it. I've got a couple that I cycle through. I've cycled through quite a few seasons of Dimension 20. I've cycled through the Magnus archives. Not the newest season that's still releasing, but all of the old seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to the White Vault. Again, not the new stuff, but the old stuff.
Stuff that you don't have to actually think about when it's being played.
Yeah. Yep. Also, yes, Maleck has opinions. When do I not?
I mean, that's what you come to the show for.
Yeah, quite literally.
So I'm sure this joke would make sense if I knew what the fuck this was about.
So the Magnus Archives is a horror podcast. It's a supernatural horror podcast, kind of a found footagey type deal. It's
so
actually
like Hookland,
huh?
Like Hookland.
I haven't heard of that.
Never mind.
Um,
Points of comparison only work if we both know what the fuck we're talking about.
Yep. Oops, that's fine. But really, it's really quite well done. I actually think you would enjoy it. I do recommend it. You can find it on Spotify.
Okay.
Yeah, I do recommend it. It's really quite good. Yeah. Anyway, I agree with your point too. About journey work though. With building
Taking
the muscle,
rest.
and taking time to rest, right? I would say starting with small stuff. Even honestly, like just going around the neighborhood, right? Wherever you're at, just
Yeah.
places that are physically familiar to you at first, is not a bad idea. Obviously the normal recommendations of make sure you've got spirits watching your back, make sure your shielding's up and all of that. I happen to know Melkor does all of those things, but this is general advice. I would say if you're getting out of your body and going to do things, make sure that you have the protection in place.
Yeah, and make sure before you do anything, cleanse, ground, center, shield, do the spiritual hygiene stuff, because the last thing you want to do is be either filthy going to somebody else's house potentially, or because you're filthy attracting shit you don't want back home.
Yeah.
It's also something I hasten to point out, because I'm not sure who's going to be listening to this, although we are responding to Melkor. Journey work to me is like one of the last things a person should be doing if everything else has been kind of done. Like if you've prayed on it, if you've asked for dreams, if you asked for visions, divined on it. Like for me, journey work, because of how dangerous it can be, is the last step.
Yeah.
And I didn't used to be like this. I used to do journey work for fuck all everything, and then I learned me a thing or two.
Yeah. I am at the point where I almost there is some journey work that I do routinely, but that is kind of specific things, like specific work that I do on a schedule for specific gods and spirits.
Right.
Outside of that, I don't really journey anymore. Not that I can't, like certainly I can, but there's little reason to. I've got plenty to do right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, the more that I do things, the more that I get into things, I don't particularly care for the core shamanism thing of I'm going to go journey and find an answer. I don't particularly care for that. That doesn't, I can divine for that, right? Like if I need an answer, I can ask questions. I don't feel the need to go out to find an answer.
Right. And that's not to shit on, at least from my perspective, my lack of desire to do journey work has nothing to do with poo-pooing core shamanism, if that's what works for you.
Sure.
But I think it's a valid criticism that if you're spending that much time out of your body instead of doing the work in it, there might be some fundamental disconnects that need to be looked at. Because if instead of approaching the spirits that you're living with, you're constantly going out of body. And again, I want to emphasize this is not the question Melkor asked. This is just my off-tangent bitch rant about too much journey work as put forward by core shamanism. My problem with that is that a lot of that turns into spiritual bypassing if you don't watch it.
Yeah. And it's funny because this is quite a bit different than I used to be. I used to journey all the damn time, but
it can be a useful tool, especially if a lot of the other ones just don't fucking work for you.
Yeah. You're just getting
God damn, Snow.
No, so Sarenth, when do you start looking after your body with sleep, rest, and hydration?
Hey, look, assholes, I've been working on that for quite a bit, and looky here, even on the broadcast, I have been chasing about 2 or 3 drinks. I'm chasing it with water. I'm working on it. Also, Also, really quick as an aside, for all of you who are bitching at me, I did finally get that goddamn CPAP and it's working great.
Good, because you snore like a train. I love you, but you do snore like a train.
I do.
So Indy also says, all y'all who can just read stuff in books and don't need to do journey work to learn any dang thing.
There is that.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, there have been times where I have been asked to journey, and it does still occasionally pop up where it's like God will say, or Spirit will say, I can't teach you this, and you got to come to me for this shit. And okay, yeah, if that's the case, then that's what we're doing. I just don't. I'm not right now in a stage where I'm doing that a lot, and don't feel the need to. Different strokes, different folks.
Yeah, and I think as far as advice for journey work, broadly speaking, do the spiritual hygiene, evaluate whether or not this is the best tool for the job. If it's the best tool for the job, I would start slow, build up to longer journeys slowly. For me, making sure people know I'm journeying so they don't wake me up or say my name is important.
Yeah.
If I've had instances where I've been in the middle of a journey work and I got ripped out of the experience because somebody called my name and it hurt.
Yeah. No, I imagine that was very unpleasant.
I was pissed. I was in pain. I'm very lucky I didn't vomit. Like I've heard of people having these really physical reactions, especially when you start looking at stuff like Udaceta and Save. Like you're not supposed to really call the person's name unless they're in dire straits because it can hurt them. Yeah. So making sure that the people that you live with, that your phone is off, that your distractions are minimized, but also making sure that if you're going to listen to something, that it's actually conducive to you staying down, and that if you have a playlist that it repeats or that it's long enough or short enough to get you in and out.
Yeah. I find that there's I have one particular drum beat on YouTube that I particularly like and use because it's about 3 hours long.
Nice.
So if I really need to get some work done, I can do that. Although I don't find I need music to do anything, right? I can just hit a trance state when I need to. But
so it depends, because for me, like when I was doing regular journey work to the Ironwood, I'd use Paleo Wolf's Age of the Wolf while I was working out, and I needed something to block out all the extra TV noise and bullshit from people lifting weights and being silly.
Yeah, no, and that's fair.
And it just comes down to, is this going to work for you?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is also working with your brain and whether or not you're doing it in a right. What is the music doing? Is it inducing trance, or is it just giving your brain something to listen to so that you don't get distracted and can then do the right? And those are different things, even though they might look the same.
Oh, this is a really great question as a follow-up. Okay, so what about the point that if you're constantly cleansing, warding, shielding, etc., you're closing off access to spirits and divine experiences because their walls are up all the time? So this is, to me, the difference between cleaning the air filter of your HVAC unit, because you can't get rid of all the pollen ever, all the dirt ever. These are cleaning measures. You're not supposed to be in a completely sterile environment 100% of the time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, one, there is such a thing as if you scrub,
you can definitely overdo it.
Right, like if you're scrubbing your floor so much that you are destroying the grout, you're doing something wrong. Right, because at a certain point you're doing it so much that you're actively causing harm.
Yep.
On the flip side, a lot of it is about tailoring, right? If your shields are so damn hard and impermeable that you can't breathe if no air can get through, well, that's really going to suck very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, the point is to set it up like wards and shields and stuff. You know, back in the day when a lot of my warding was more kind of like mechanical in metaphor, I had whitelists and blacklists. And the blacklist was obviously much more generalized, and the whitelist was like specific names, or like category people who come home with me and are physically incarnated,
Right.
things like that.
I think there's a danger in overdoing it just as much as there's a danger in underdoing it. I think for me, balance is key. And the running of a good household means that I have done my due diligence, but I'm not, like you said, stripping the grout out of the ground to cleanse. Yeah. I also think the opposite is also true. I'm not being so negligent that I never cleanse.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, it's a question of what is inviting to the spirits you're hoping to work with.
Yeah.
The other question is, what can you live with? Like on a literal basis, like what kind of spiritual clutter can you live with that isn't going to fuck you up?
Yeah.
Because everybody's got, you got some folks that are so into minimalism that they just need a couch and a TV, maybe on a table. You got other people who are so into having stuff that their walls are plastered in it and it feels naked if there's not everything covered in tchotchkes. Yeah. And there's nothing inherently wrong about either approach. It's a question of what works for you and your environment.
Yeah. Yep.
Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Okay. Well, I'm also asking this to Snow since that fucker asked the question.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And actually, this also gets into kind of Melkor's next question, which is, have you worked any new kind of magic stuff into your daily routine? This is kind of where digging into that kind of area of what's the daily routine like, what's the point of it.
Look, Snow's not the only one that gets to call people out on this goddamn show.
Melkor said, for people listening, don't at my maximalism.
No shade. I like my things.
Yep. You like your shinies. I like my shinies just fine, which is funny because I constantly insist that you don't need stuff to do magic. And I agree. I stand by that. You don't need stuff to do magic.
You don't need it, but it sure makes a lot of things easier. Yep.
Yeah, right? Like, it makes things a lot easier. And a lot of it for me is it's not that I need it. It's that I want it. Like, right. Do I need anything to cleanse? No, I can cleanse by myself. But having some sacred herbs around to help smoke cleanse is sure nice.
It's nice to have friends.
Yeah.
So, what about you? Have you worked any kind of new stuff into your daily routine? You mentioned earlier singing.
Yeah. So on the one hand, the big thing that I am doing lately is meditation. I'm in a class, and we're learning kind of a specific kind of meditation. I won't go into any details because I'm not allowed to, and I wouldn't anyway, because it's not mine to teach. But also, it's a very interesting, and meditation in general is extremely useful, right? Like, done correctly, it's incredibly useful. Good thing to do.
This actually ties directly into a point that Snow made, and I really quickly want to touch on it. You can get yourself into a state of spiritual psychosis by overdoing it.
Yes.
And yes. That is increasingly becoming a more aware thing that people are being made aware of in meditation and more Western Buddhist circles, because they've had so many people just straight up dive off the deep end after a weekend of empowerments and intense meditation work, but it's not talked about as much in our circles, partly because there's not that cachet, but there's also a dissipation, I suppose, between the various social medias and everything else. But I figured it's something that at least I wanted to put to words before I forgot it.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, no, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do everything. And just because there are many right ways doesn't mean that there aren't also wrong ways, right?
Right.
Um, and like, there absolutely you can overdo meditation, right? I do about an hour every day. At least 5 days a week. I try to do 7 days a week. It doesn't always work. Uh, and sometimes I don't hit that hour every day. Sometimes it's I got 30 minutes and that was a struggle. But it is what it is. That's been really, really useful. Uh, I experiment. This is a slightly difficult question for me because with the ADHD, I experiment with my daily prayers. I experiment with my grounding, centering, shielding. I experiment with my cleansing all the time, right? I'm constantly adjusting things. Um, like right now, when I first started at this job, because my commute is an hour each way, and I'm driving through the middle of fucking nowhere. Um, I was saying uh, about a 1 minute prayer about every 5 minutes. Um, Now I've cut that down to I say about a 1 minute prayer at the beginning of the drive, and I just pray to everyone along the drive all in one swoop. Why? Because I'm doing other things on the drive. In no small part, I'm meditating sometimes. Which thanks ADHD, you give me the ability to meditate while I drive, which is interesting. But there's I change things very, very frequently. Um, Not like huge. I'm not like, upending everything all the time, but I'm pretty consistently adjusting things.
I don't know, that critical theory has you constantly reevaluating shit. I'm not sure if I'm comfy with that.
Yeah, that whole constant analysis. And that's actually a thing, right? Is the constant analysis of myself and everything else is a skill that is just baked into me at this point. I've done it for so fucking long.
Right. And I think that's a very useful skill, but it can also, like a lot of things taken to their extreme, it can be an impediment because if you're trying to analyze an experience while you're having it, that is incredibly disruptive.
Oh, for sure. And it can get too far, right, where you're over analyzing things and you're like there's
Going down rabbit holes that aren't fucking there, and
yeah, right, like, oh, but
not
if
that
I
I've
dig
ever
this
done
way, like, no, dude, it's just dirt. I promise it's just dirt.
that.
Um, but yeah, yeah, not other than the meditation being the big change, not a ton different at present, but
Right.
you.
Oh, for me, the magic stuff that I've incorporated into my routine, honestly, it's mostly different techniques for doing a lot of the same stuff I was doing, and yeah, it's just doing a lot of different things in different ways from what I
Mhm.
have in the past, while still making room for all these spirits and all these relationships. So it's not even necessarily that it's new kind of magic. It's that it's magic done in a different way.
Yeah.
Like it's all magic practice. Like the spiritual hygiene that I'm working with right now, for instance, what I've incorporated into my daily routine is instead of doing 5 spiritual hygiene runes, I'm doing 9.
Okay.
So I'm working with Ansus for cleansing, Gabo for grounding and centering, Kanas for shielding, Nauthies for burning away poisons, and for being able to digest poisons that can't be burnt away. Fehu for bringing vitality, virility, vigor, and energy. Um, Udras for power and strength, or excuse me, power and might. Algies for rootedness and protection. Ivas for strength and reliability, and manas for connection with others and for connection with my own souls. Like, it's a lot of the same stuff that I've been doing for the better part of 20 years, just more of it.
Yeah.
Or just in a different fashion.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Sorry, jumping into rabbit holes that aren't there, just jumping on the ground, on the spot, staying on the ground. I mean, you know.
You underestimate my ability to dig.
Uh-oh. Bonus question for Sarenth for an hour later. Do you consider your CPAP as breathwork? Yes. Could it be? I enchant all my stuff. So, fun fact. As soon as I brought that fucker home, I established a relationship with the spirit of the CPAP, and I will be blessing the waters that go into it so that every time I breathe, I am breathing blessed water.
Nice.
So, yeah, I wanted to hit that now because I sure as shit ain't going to remember that for the after party.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, moving on just a bit. What are you looking forward to working on next? Holiday, ritual, etc. If you can share, what do those preparations look like?
Oh, gods. Well, the 22nd is coming up, and that's
It
going
sure
to be our
shit is.
it's going to be our big midsummer feast. We're going to have a big pig roast. Jason's going to come over, and we're going to butcher a pig, and we're going to do ceremony with it.
I'm very excited.
Same. It's always exciting when Jason comes over and we get an excuse to wear these ugly / awesome / funny butcher aprons that Corinne got for us.
Nice.
Oh, they're amazing. I love them. You'll have to see it when you come over.
I will.
It looks kind of like the what is that damn toaster cat?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Neon cat.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Oh, they are awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, they are awesome. You know it from Emily. Yes, They are awesome. I love them. They make me laugh every time I put them on.
Nice.
So that's the big thing I'm looking forward to doing as far as holiday and ritual is the big pig roast. And the plan is to take the head and bury it in the garden again, like we did the last one, and then see if later on it wants to be unburied because the last one did, and it holds places of honor in our house now.
Nice. I'm also looking forward to that. Oh, speaking of, I also have an apron. Not that Corinne got me, but that a partner quite a while ago, many years ago now, got me when she was in Italy, and it's the David, but only from about here down, right about to the knees.
Nice
display. So yeah, it's very funny. Yeah,
brings Kiss the Cook to a whole new meaning, huh?
Yeah, it really does. It's very funny. But I'm also really looking forward to the solstice celebration. Solstice is obviously very important. I shouldn't say obviously. The solstice is very important to me in my work with Freyr. As for me, that is kind of the high point as for him as Sun King, and is a big holiday for him. It is also my wedding anniversary, so it's a big day for me overall. I've taken like most of a week off of work. I'm going down to Sarenth for the pig roast. It's going to be a good time. I'm really genuinely looking forward to that party. It's going to be a good time, both like spiritually, ritually, and also just getting to see everyone and hang out and have a good time will be good. Also, when you and Jason cook, it's always fucking delicious. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that. And just in general, I'm really enjoying the process of and looking forward to and working on this yearly holiday schedule that I'm building in my practice for Freyr. It's very interesting. It's moving, it's fun, it's exciting, it's at times very sad, but not in a like depressive way, in a good and moving way. It is all of the things that it is basically all of the things that I want out of holidays and religion, and I'm like, oh, this is almost like it's work that I'm extremely suited for. Wild. Who would have thought?
Hunt.
Who would have thought that I am built to be a priest? Shock.
Weird. Fucking weirdos. So since discovering the proper use of your nose, and this is from Cookie Queen, since discovering the proper use of your nose in relation to beverages and food, how, if any, has your perception changed, Sarah? I think that I'm getting more of a depth of flavor and understanding. Although I think part of the problem is that I'm dealing with kind of half a deck when it comes to proper descriptors. So I'm still working on that.
For reference, for those who don't know what Cookie Queen is referencing here, during an after party several months ago now, we went through kind of a shotgun version of hey, here's how you actually like it started with stop saying the word smooth. Just forget that word exists, and then all right, now describe what the fuck you're tasting. Because unfortunately, in a lot of cases, smooth is just a handicap word. It's just you slap smooth on everything, and then you don't describe it much further.
It's not even a handicap at this point. It's become like a substitute for all the other shit you should be saying.
Yeah. And then, we went through a couple of other like, all right, now do this. Now do this. Wait, no, don't do the thing that you were about to do. Stop. Keep doing the thing that I said to do. Okay. Now we're going to move on.
See? He can be taught. You can teach an old wolf new tricks.
It was a really fun experience. Because on the one hand, it's always really nice to see the light go off in the eyes, which was this case, hearing it in your voice. But also, it's neat because there is genuinely a world of experience with alcohol and food and everything else. And these skills are kind of broadly applicable, and it's pretty neat.
It's kind of like opening up a whole new world because you're experiencing more of the fullness of the thing, even if, and I am, lacking a lot of the verbiage to properly describe what the fuck I'm experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also understanding that to a certain degree we're all lacking.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that point in Contact where is it Jodie Whittaker is like saying to the people over the line like they should have brought a poet. It's oh god, I probably butchered.
Is that the movie with the aliens with the language that breaks time?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I actually really recommend people watch that movie. It's fantastic and is
Jodie Foster. Excuse me.
Jodie Foster. Yeah. It's an excellent exploration of language and how it both shapes and is shaped by our perception. It's really, really cool. I really recommend that movie to people.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but that particular part of it sticks with me as how do you describe the ineffable? And sometimes that's kind of how I feel like when I'm eating something or when I'm drinking something. It's like, I like the taste.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to be clear, is enough. Like, this isn't like you're better if you can do it. Like, no, it's a neat thing to do, and it's neat to be able to open your brain up and experience more of it. But also, if all you get is, I don't know, it tastes good. Good,
right?
Great, you're enjoying it. That's the point.
Rena Torres asked, rituals, tools, weapons, and implements. What do you have? How do you use them? How did you discover how to use them? What is your inspiration? Oh fuck.
Yeah. And
dude,
also we did through conversation expand this to consumables. So herbs, food, drink, etc.
Right. So, okay, so I'll just show one of mine on air. Come here, you. So I made this. This actually this is the bone and feather of a bird that was hand raised by Morgana, the owner of Poking Dead Things. And she gave us space to make these beautiful cleansing fans. This is a sacred item that I've made, and all of the things that you see here were sourced from her or by her. The sinew that holds the red leather together, the wolf fur from wolves that have been taken care of that are not killed, by the way. They are still being taken care of and hand raised in a good way. But the birds that she hand raised and killed herself. Um, you know, this is just one example. And I don't use this, generally speaking, on other people. I use this mostly for myself, occasionally for other people. And then there is this, which is a complete shed from a dear friend, Ragnar's snake. And I work with this in a couple of different contexts, one of which is Jormungand, another which is Othin as a snake.
Right, because he does have that. Yeah.
So, to clarify really quick, Contact was I think it's 1997 movie starring Jodie Foster. And it's a sci-fi.
There was a remake then, much more recently.
Interesting.
We'll look it up and post it after the show, because I kind of want to dive into this.
Well, the original movie was a 1997 American science fiction drama film by Robert Zemeckis.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't know they remade it. That's interesting.
Yeah, it might not be a remake. It might be something along the same lines. But yeah. Tools that I have. I have a lot. It kind of depends on how exactly you find like ritual tools. I have a number of knives, a couple of sacred pipes, not in the indigenous sense. Like I'm not a pipe carrier for any tradition. These are just pipes that are tobacco pipes that are sacred to several of my spirits. Various statuary. I have a lot of things as I'm kind of sitting and thinking about it. It's kind of hard because it's kind of a lot. And some of it is stuff that I'm not going to talk about either because it's personal or because I can't, for either spirit or kind of tradition reasons. I guess diving into kind of the other stuff. Let me read the exact phrasing. What do you have? How do you use them? How did you discover how to use them? What is your inspiration? All right, how do I use them? It depends on the tool. Mostly I would say I use them as kind of like I was talking about earlier, where I don't need a tool to do a thing, but it helps, right? It is much easier to dig with a shovel than it is to dig with my hands. I can dig with my hands if I need to, but I would much rather dig with a shovel if I can. And sometimes, depending on the ritual, a tool is required, right? If I'm going to, not that I have, but I know that it's a skill I need to learn. But if I'm going to sacrifice an animal, I can't do that with my hands, at least not well, depending on the animal. There are some birds that you could sacrifice with your hands, but generally speaking, you're going to need a blade. So I have several ritual blades that are for that or other purposes. A lot of these I found or was given. Found either like literally, use the tool, don't be the tool, as Snow said. Yeah, exactly. Um, like I have a lot of stones. A lot of these I found out in nature. Either they were given to me by land spirits. Some of them were given to me by building spirits. Pieces of the building themselves, or house spirits, or etc. a lot of these are representations. Some of them are divinatory tools. Uh, some of them can be used for help with grounding, things like that. Depends a lot on the spirit of the stone and the spirits that it's connected with. Um, I have a lot of bones, unsurprisingly. Many of them given to me by Sarenth. Um, a lot of the bones in particular are divinatory tools for me. That's a thing that I'm not going to get into, but that is very much a thing. Um, I use them as well tools, and as friends and allies is a lot of it, right? It's not they aren't things; they are people that I go to for help. Um, and that gets into a lot of how did I learn how to use it. Most of it's spirit taught for me. A few things I've been taught how to use by other people. Um, my flint and steel, a lot of the kind of ritual elements of that were spirit taught for fire tending, um, but not all of them. But like, how did I learn how to use it? Well, I looked at guides online, right? That's how I learned how to use a flint and steel because that's easier than spirit contact. And frankly, that's how I was directed. They were like, yeah, go find out how to use this and then come back and then we'll teach you the ritual stuff. When you can consistently make sparks with this, then we'll move on to the other things. Um, but for me, most of it was spirit taught, which is frankly quite difficult. If you can avoid being spirit taught, I would. Uh, it can be extremely powerful and extremely helpful and everything, but having a physical person to teach you how to do things is what I would recommend 9 times out of 10, um, for a lot of reasons. I draw inspiration though from places. A lot of my inspiration comes from practices around me. A lot of it comes from European things, right? Like Old Norse practices, Old English practices, Old Germanic practices in general have a big influence on my practice. A lot of it I draw from Mongolian and Siberian shamanism. What is available and open to me, what has been taught to me by people who have the right to teach me that. I'm certainly not a shaman. I'm certainly not in any fashion any. I'm not qualified in any fashion to do basically anything in those realms, but I've learned a thing or two. Um, you know, or been directed to read. Hey, go read that book. Neat. That thing that they're doing is kind of similar to what we're doing. Go do that, and then here's how to do it our way. Is a lot of it, which I've talked about on the show a lot before, right? Like, I've talked about very specifically the way that the pack spirit Sky first taught me about himself was by having me read about Tanger, or Tengri, who is the eternal blue sky in Mongolian shamanism. That's where I draw a lot of my inspiration is from either European traditions or from steppe peoples, basically. Interestingly, not a lot of Roman traditions or Greek traditions. Like I get smatterings here and there, but not a lot. Which is funny because Lupa, who is a Roman goddess, is one of the closest in my practice. But whatever. It kind of is what it is.
Syncretism's a thing.
Right. I've been rambling for a while. Your turn.
Okay. So, real quick, I am drinking Blom mead now, which is blueberry maple. Really tasty.
I haven't had that one. They're in Ann Arbor.
No shit.
Yeah, I've been to the meadery multiple times. They're in downtown Ann Arbor, or at least they were.
I like this.
Yeah, it's a really good place. I like Blum because it's their whole thing is sessionable, right? It's easy to drink, low alcohol. You could drink this one after the other all day and be fine.
Right.
I mean, you'd be drunk by the end, but
Happily.
yeah.
It's
It's
light and
not
crisp.
it's not a 19% that it's going to take you a half hour to drink.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's not kicking you in the ass. For me, so I'm actually going to post two examples of Taufer that I own.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to slap that in chat. These both come from
Grimfrost.
Grimfrost because I am a Grimfrost whore.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
like my
say it.
chunky jewelry. Fuck off.
It's Norse hot topic.
I like my
I'm not
Norse Hot
saying that
Topic.
as a bad thing, but it is.
I can't say shit. Like I've got my jewelry and my shirt and yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm 90% sure your hat's from them too.
no, this hat is not. This is from an Etsy shop.
Oh, okay.
No, this was hand woven by somebody in Poland.
Okay, cool.
Um, so I've got a bunch of shit that I really like, and each one is an ally or spirit or both. Well, each one's an ally and a spirit. And some of them are miniaturized versions of stuff that I have that are big. Like for instance, the Gungnir amulet, I actually have a full on spear.
Mm-hmm.
The other linens, yes, they are from Grimfrost. Because I am a basic bitch heathen sometimes. With regards to the two amulets that I posted, I have both of these and they work excellent. The second amulet is a reconstruction of one that's found in a lot of graves, and it is a Mjolnir, a firelighter, and a knife on a simple ring.
Mm-hmm.
And these constitute protective elements, the elements of cleansing from fire, of calling in spirits, of warding, as well as dividing with the knife. There's a lot of symbolism that is packed in pretty tight, but all of them are spirits. A lot of my inspiration is a combination of Northern European forms of spirit work that I've glommed from years of studying this as a heathen, and what is on the outside available to me as sources of inspiration from Mongol and Buryat peoples. I take a bit less inspiration sometimes than I used to, simply because I'm trying as much as I can to eschew to what some people call the arch heathens would have eschewed to because of what was available in their area. So, and so for me, even the rings I wear, are spirit allies, are containers of relationships. So it's, for me, I relate to a lot of things in a straightforward manner that belies the complexity.
Yeah.
There's very little that's in the house that isn't in some way, shape, or form related to spirits. Yeah, that's just how I live my life. Like, even down to some of the meads I pick up, I'm pushed or nudged, or hey, you haven't tried this yet. We'd like to see if you like this, and if you'd like to share this with us. Sometimes it's really that simple, and sometimes it can be a little overwhelming because I do live a very spirit saturated life. But on the other hand, I don't know how else I'd be. Like, I've done this for so long, and I've lived this life the way I have for the better part of half my life now. Like, I'm coming up on 40. I'm going to be 39 this year. And I became a heathen at age 18. A pagan anyway. Probably age 20, I became a heathen officially. So for almost half of my life, I've been this.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is just, it flows naturally from relationships I hold. Oh my gods, really?
Yeah. Oh, you elderly person, you. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
um, some of the things that I have as far as relationships go, like, for instance, with pipes, some of that was informed by teachings I was brought into that I was allowed to take home with me, but I'm not a pipe carrier in the Medewin sense or in the pipe carrier sense in native traditions. But I do have pipes that are sacred. Mm-hmm. They're just not pipestone pipes that are sacred.
Yeah.
It's sacred in a different way. I'm relating to them through a heathen lens. All of this I relate through in some way, shape, or form through a heathen lens, because it's the perspective I carry. Even with Greek gods, in some cases, there's certain aspects of their mysteries that have come forward in very heathenish ways, or at least ways that are kind of close enough. Let's just put it that way. That I haven't gotten the full range of yet. Like the Toys of Dionysus came to me especially in very heathenish ways. Like definitely Greek, but also smacking very much of heathenry. So it's this interesting syncretism that interweaves through my life.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I find very similar stuff. Like all of my heathenry is colored by pack stuff, right? Like there's no way around it. I carry them with me,
right?
And they carry me. And similarly, I bring my heathenry into pack stuff. It's not this, it's this.
Yeah. This is something I try to relate to people, and they're like, "Well, can't you just leave that at the door?" It's like, no, it's literally part of me. I don't know how the fuck to do it.
Yeah, like no.
Well, I wouldn't say that I don't know how to do it. I would say that you're asking me to leave a piece of myself at the door when you do that.
Yeah, like could I? Maybe. In the sense that like I could take my hand off and leave it at the door.
Right.
Is that what you're asking me to do? Because my answer is going to be no. I can leave.
Right.
I would rather leave than do that.
Yeah. So basically, never go to Sarenth's house without expecting some woo happenings. That's from Kim. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, you should never go to either of our houses without expecting shit to go off. Like,
I mean, even just small house calls. Like, I've had people come over just for like social calls, and something pops off, something happens, and it's not like I planned this shit. It's just
no. But when the spirits are interwoven into your life, they're gonna say hi.
Exactly.
Right? It's not like, oh, this big thing. It's no, the spirits.
No,
shut up and said hi.
Even if it's something small, like there's something I picked up from my friend Cinti, where it's a Finnish tradition where you have a salt box, so that people don't take the luck of the house with them when they leave, and you offer the guests salt when they leave. So that's something I've integrated into my household practice in my life, because it made sense.
Yeah.
Maleck and Sarenth also bring the woo with them.
Yeah, no,
you're not wrong.
That's very much a thing, right? Like we were saying, it's woven into you at this point. Like you can't not.
Yeah, I mean, I am. Yeah, I don't know how not to be other than what I am.
Yeah,
and to a certain degree, like I don't hold many relationships where that's not an expected thing of me. Like, I think honestly at this point, work relationships are the only relationships I hold where I have to leave most of myself at the fucking door, and even that's kind of questionable as how much of that I leave at the door. Because inevitably, some poor bastard says, "Hey, this weird thing happened," and I went, "Oh, I know what that is," or "That sounds like this. Does this sound like what you're experiencing?" "Yeah, how did you know?" "I didn't know. It just sounds like something I've experienced before. Let's talk."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And like you were saying.
Oh my fucking gods.
They think you eat babies.
There's a whole story to this. Go ahead. I will explain this in a minute.
Yeah, okay. And going into like the consumables portion, right? Like my relation. You okay?
Sorry.
Oh, consumables eat babies. I'm sorry, that was completely unintentional. Oh, speaking of consumables in a sacred sense, Jesus Christ.
Oh, thank
technically,
you.
I'm an apostate. Uh, fuck, that's funny. I hadn't thought about that until just this moment. Yeah, technically I'm an apostate. Anyway,
Oh, this is a good point. Really quick, the salt acts a protective charm for the journey home. Yes, that
yeah.
too.
Like the alcohol sitting next to me, right? It's a consumable, right?
Right.
It's not what Reno was originally thinking of, but I hold sacred relationship with these spirits.
Right.
Right?
Same.
That was literally the prayer opening the episode was to these spirits, the spirits in our glass. You know,
Yeah.
here's the y'all.
Yeah. I'm looking at a door behind which is 3 gallons of mead that's brewing. It's all sacred. It's all dedicated to one god or another.
Yeah. And even without that, like none of these whiskeys are dedicated to anyone but themselves, but
Right.
they're still sacred spirits to me.
Exactly. Yes.
They are both points of connection and connection themselves, right?
Just like each one of us is a Vatar, a spirit unto themselves, so is this. It just happens to be that I'm drinking this.
Yep. And I hold similar. Wow, starting to slur, like I talked about. I hold similar relationships with a number of herbs. I hold,
Well, like mugwort, for instance.
yeah,
Like I burn mugwort. That doesn't mean that I don't hold it as sacred, but in order to release the fumigatory effects of mugwort, you got to set the poor woman on fire.
right. Grandmother is how she is.
Right. Like there's a reason one of the by names I call her is Amauna, Grandmother Joy.
Yep.
And that's out of respect, and it's also recognition.
Yeah. Interestingly, one of the I can't talk about it. Never mind.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So moving swiftly on.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
How did you get your names? Or is it, assuming it's not too much of a personal question? This is from Jason.
Ooh, yeah.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I'll go first. The names that I go by publicly, or the name that I go by publicly, Maleck, with Odinson sometimes tacked on there, depending on things, which is not a name that I've disowned. Me and the old man are not on speaking terms, but that's okay. That will probably change eventually. We'll get there. It's fine. It's not a big deal right now. But he's the one who gave me that name. We can talk about whether it was reminding me of the name or bestowing it upon me, or both. But
yes.
That's how I got it. Yeah, the answer is yes. And quite frankly, I think it is quite literally yes, because I think it was a name that he bestowed upon me in a past life and then reminded me of in this life. I think that's what happened. I have other names. I'm not going to talk about them because they're not anyone's fucking business. And also, it's dangerous, right? Names are dangerous. Names are important.
Names are links, relations, relating.
Yeah. They're power, and they're a lot of things. And also, they're a good fucking...
they're an excellent conduit for doing shit.
Right? And...
Incidentally, don't give out your birth dates.
Yep. Right? Don't give out your birth dates. Things like that. Both for, like, that's how you steal credit cards, and also, you can curse people like that.
Yep, quite easily.
Maleck is what I go by in public. That's not how you pronounce that name. I'm not going to tell you how to pronounce that name. Don't worry about it. Don't try.
Well, I think too that it's not only don't think about it, don't try, but it's also what are you trying to gain besides a whole shitload of spirits being pissed at you?
And that's why I said don't try, because there are people who I fully believe could hit me with a curse and it would work. But also, most people, you're buying a lot of trouble. Don't try that shit. Like, And honestly, that goes for curse work in general. That's a good way to buy a lot of trouble.
Honestly, if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're going off half cocked and you haven't really thought about it, you might want to reconsider.
Yeah, and I say that as someone who's done a lot of curse work. Like
Right.
I have done that before, and quite effectively.
However,
I recommend don't. Why? Because how much trouble do you want to buy?
I mean,
can you afford it?
how much are you gonna have to buy to get the person's ancestors on your side for this? Or how much trouble are you gonna borrow when the ancestors of the person you've targeted come after you?
Yep.
Ooh, yes, this. Don't throw a curse if you aren't prepared to have it rebound on you, and then some. Yes.
Yep. Because it can happen. And this isn't the rule of 3 or any of that shit. That's not what the fuck we're talking about. We're talking about like
this is just simple spell shit. Like
curses can come back.
Yeah. I mean, granted, sometimes curses aren't going to rebound because, like, for some fucking reason, whomever is on your side, or oh no, this asshole needs to learn a lesson. Have at.
Sometimes you are the thing that comes around, but
honestly, I think for the most part, most people pay the find out fee after you fuck around. It's kind of like crossing those automatic troll bridges in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't realize that those cameras are taking pictures of them when they're going 60 in a 50 zone.
Yep.
Simple battle
tactics. Like, yeah. If you can have an inside man do it, it's and we talked about this actually with Chris Ashburn, right? Like,
yep.
Don't fuck around with people unless you're willing to take on all of the spirits on their side. And if you can get the spirits on their side on your side, you might just win.
I mean, I think we might have mentioned it at that show, but I can't recall. One of the things the Romans were really good at was petitioning other people's gods with these huge ass sacrifices to get them on their side before they'd siege them.
Yep. It's funny, and I forget where I've heard this, but I heard somewhere that one of the ways, and I think it was ancient Greece, to do curse work was to write on a tablet a bunch of shit talk about a particular river spirit.
Yep, lead tablets.
Sign your enemy's name to it, and then throw it in that river.
It in the fucking river.
Like that's a great way to piss that spirit off about that person, like, and give them a target to go after. Like, do I recommend doing it? No, for a variety of reasons, including lead is bad for waterways, but also like fucking I do not like being on. I accidentally recently annoyed, not pissed off, vaguely annoyed a river spirit that I am very close with. And even that's probably overstating it. And I felt the effects of that for weeks off of basically one incident. And it was just vague annoyance at most. And it was basically like, you did a thing without asking me that you should have absolutely asked me first.
Right.
Why did you do that?
I think it's worth pointing out that unless you... how dependent our cities are on these local waterways. And people are like, oh, well, we're not really so much today. I'm like, motherfucker, go without water for 3 days and you're going to figure out just how dependent you are.
Yep. Go ask Flint, Michigan how dependent they are on that.
Yeah, no shit. Also, like, seriously, fuck the Snyder administration.
Yeah. Flint, Michigan, to my knowledge, still doesn't have clean water. Their water is still lead.
They do not. They do not. And the last person who tried setting up a mobile cleansing station, their mobile cleansing station was damaged to the point of needing to be completely repaired.
Great. Yeah.
Because there was a person who had devised some kind of machine to produce clean water, but it got just... It's a clusterfuck. It never should have happened. This is why boring shit like maintaining your infrastructure is important.
Yeah. Is it boring? Yes. Also, it's how you live.
It's not sexy, but you're gonna feel a whole lot better being able to drink your fucking water.
Right. Anyway, your name.
My name came out of a Dragon Riders of Pern MIRC chat. That is the origin of Sarenth. It is deep. Let me fucking tell you. Like, I have no problem telling people that Sarenth started off as an MIRC Dragon Riders of Pern chat name that I use for role-playing purposes.
Fair enough.
And it stuck. What I found was really neat was, as I was coming into paganism, was I found a Sumerian dictionary, and it translates something to the effect of divine flame.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Neat.
No idea why that one of any other, besides needing the nth convention, because that's what dragons were named in Dragon Rise of Pern. There's always an nth at the name, at the end of the name. Odinson should be obvious to anybody who's watched more than 5 seconds of this damn show. That'd be Odin. He's my daddy. He's my father. Yeah.
I remember the first time. It wasn't the first time we met. It was, I think, the second or third time we met. But it was at when metaphysical discussion nights were still in person.
Right.
And the first time, it was, you only kind of recognized me because face blindness and other. You'd only met me like twice. I got kind of reintroduced to you, and I had been told that I needed to talk to you because I had just received the name. And I basically introduced myself as, hey, yeah, Odin just gave me the name Odinson. And your face just fell, and you said, fuck.
Because I know anytime somebody says, hey, you should talk to that guy, and they said, hey, I have this name now, and Odin gave it to me, it's just like, shit. Either you're going to be a lot of work, an awesome friend, or both. I'm hoping it's the latter of the two, because work on its own can sometimes suck.
Yep. I'm both. It's fine.
I love you dearly. It was really neat because it was basically like taking myself back. God, this was what, about a decade ago now.
I have been doing this for 5 years.
Okay, so time blindness is a thing.
Also, those 5 years have felt like a decade. It's fine.
Yeah. So that's it? 5 years, really?
Yeah.
Sounds like bullshit.
Time blindness is a thing. I started either summer of 2018 or summer of 2019. I forget which, but it's been 5 or 6 years in total.
Wow. It's a whole lot of living in 6 years.
Yeah.
Damn. So 6 years ago, I felt like you were at a similar stage to me about maybe a decade, 5 years hence. And I was like, oh, God, it's me. Fuck. All right.
To be fair, you weren't wrong.
I was not wrong at all. But you have come so far in so many different ways. And yeah, you're like, there's a reason it feels like we've been friends for so much longer than 10 years. But like Emily said here, you have covered an amazing amount of ground in 5 years, Maleck, but you are you. Yeah.
I live in fast forward. It's fine.
It's a thing.
It's not. It is fine for me. It's how I function.
Right.
But also, I understand why just hearing about the shit I do makes other people... Because it makes me tired. Fucking, I ride the hard edge of burnout a lot. I'm really glad that I have tomorrow off of work and I get to do this tonight because I am riding that hard edge real hard right now.
I think this might be just a thing with Odinsons, generally speaking. Because not on the one hand, if the old man isn't riding your ass, you're riding your own ass. So, like, if he's not riding your ass, on the other hand, you're riding your own ass hard enough that nobody else should at that point need to.
Yeah.
Honestly, you're not wrong, Melkor. Don't worry, but I'll just die about it and come back for round 2. It's funny you mentioned that because I've done it.
And Melkor was also specifically referencing how many times I've done death and rebirth rituals. It's Melkor has seen me die more than once.
And it's we say this kind of tongue in cheek, not because we think anybody else should fucking do it, but just because it's been a requirement of the path we walk.
Yeah,
I actually, if you can avoid doing death and rebirth rituals, fucking do so.
Yeah, don't. It's not pleasant. I don't recommend. It's not like ooh, I'm edgy and no, fucking don't do it. It was not. It's not fun.
You can. There's no point to it if there's not an actual risk of you dying.
Yeah.
Like a death and rebirth ritual should contain the threat of you actually dying to be worth a damn. And I say that with caution, not with bravado or braggadocio.
No, it is. Don't do that shit. It's not good. It's not fun. Like it might be necessary, but make sure it's fucking necessary before you like.
And that's not to say don't tilt the odds in your favor that you're going to come back alive. Please fucking do. But understand if there's not a risk of actually dying, that it's probably not a death and rebirth ritual per se.
Yeah. I have stopped breathing more than once in ritual.
My poor partner at the time watched me turn blue and started wondering if she shouldn't call the ER. So, like, I've been there, damn near got the t-shirt both ways.
Yeah. You checked my pulse.
I did, because I was going to precordial thump your ass if you didn't get up.
Uh-huh.
So I'm dragging both of you. Equal opportunist. Thanks, Melkor.
Yep.
So again, like this is not braggadocio. It just is what is.
Yeah. It's if you have to do it smart. If you don't have to do it, don't do it. Why? Not because here's the thing, it doesn't make you better, it's just sometimes required.
Right. That's true of death and rebirth rituals. It's true of tools. It's true of methods and techniques. There's some stuff out there that you're gonna be like, wow, that looks really cool, and there's an entire wall of shit behind it. Like I watch Nicholas Breezewood's stuff, like his Facebook and all that, and he talks sometimes about some of the empowerments that some of these Tibetan lamas go through, and I'm like, nope. Fuck you. I'm not doing it. Absolutely. I don't care how much power I get from it. I'm not taking refuge vows.
Right? Does that sound really awesome? Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad you're doing that and having a good time with it. Absolutely not. I don't have time. No.
Every time I see something with a refuge vow attached to it, I'm like, peace.
Yeah, no. This last one for me, like, I'm bound to Freyr now. Like, there's no getting out of that for the rest of my life.
Right, possibly after
I'm bound to him. That means things.
Oh, Melkor wants an explanation of what a refuge vow is. Do you want to take this one or do you want me to do it?
I can do it and correct me if I'm wrong.
Go for it.
Because you probably know more than me. A refuge vow is a Buddhist thing, where you are basically vowing to be part of a Buddhist community. You are taking refuge in a Buddhist tradition and community. As an example,
if you are specifically asking white Tara, this is separate from green Tara because green Tara takes everybody, but white Tara has specific refuge vows. If you vow a refuge vow that is an oath to white Tara, you're a Buddhist for starters, and all that implies, and you are specifically oathing specific things to her.
Yeah.
It locks your wheel in to hers, for lacking a better term.
Yeah. There's refuge vows vary depending on tradition, depending on.
Some are much more intense than others, and some are much more brutal than others, and it depends on who you're oathing what to.
Yep. Frankly, a good way to think of it is you are oathing to a community and a tradition.
Right. And sometimes a specific lineage, depending on who holds it and what.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is a really, really good point. A refuge vow, quote, I go for refuge in the Buddha, I go for refuge in the Dharma, I go for refuge in the Sangha, end quote. You go for refuge in the three jewels, and that means not giving worship to gods, being dedicated to the Buddhist path and community. Like, I can't take that vow. I would be lying.
I will say also, refuge vows do vary quite a lot between traditions. I know some people who, not that I know them personally, but I know of some people who took Buddhist refuge vows and are still Jewish, for example.
Right.
Right, like it depends quite a lot on tradition, who your gurus and or lamas are, etc. It's very specific, much like anything else, right? Buddhism is a huge range of traditions across thousands of years and
Right.
a huge geographical area. So,
Melkor says Snow always coming in the clutch. I mean, honestly, I think Snow used to be or studied Buddhism, so like Snow is probably much more better involved and
yeah,
informed on this than either one of us.
yeah, no, certainly. And the snippets that I know are also very specific
I
tangents.
know enough to know that it's not for fucking me.
Yeah, right. Like I know it's not for me, and I know it's also like the things that I do know are very specific tangents, not mainline stuff. It's all
Right. I mean, a
like
lot
I
of
know
this.
more about tantric Buddhism, which is very specific and very niche, than I do about mainline Buddhism, and that's because of a lot of the media I consume is more in that vein. But
Right, right.
and not that I know hardly anything about tantric Buddhism. It's a tiny drop, not even a drop in a bucket level.
Right. I mean, there's the thing to keep in mind about it though is like when we say Buddhism, you really need to drill down on what the hell you're talking about. Are you talking Vajrayana? Are you talking little boat, big boat? Are you talking Tibetan? Are you talking about Bon influence? Are you talking about what are you talking about? Because
Yeah.
there are so many variations of practice, lines of lineage, etc.
Are you talking about traditional Indian Buddhism, right? Like, what are you talking about?
Right. And I am saying this is a very big boilerplate of there's so much shit out there that I don't understand because I don't have capacity for it because my life is full of other stuff that needs tending to. And I do not mean any offense to Buddhists or to lineage carriers. I just don't have room in my life for all of that on top of it, nor could I think, effectively serve that community.
Yeah.
Because
You
I'd be living a lie. Like
Yeah.
I cannot forsake the gods I've already dedicated my life to.
Yeah. No, and I think most Buddhists, my understanding at least, and this is again very limited and quite probably at least partially wrong. My understanding is that most Buddhists would say that Buddhism is one path, and there are other paths that will get you to similar places, if not the same place. And just because Buddhism isn't for you doesn't mean your path isn't valid.
I think one of the was it a guru I talked with? I don't recall. Oh, you know what it was? It was an ISKCON guy. It was an ISKCON guy.
I don't know who that is.
International Society for Christian Consciousness. I said, I'm interested in your books, but I don't think I could take these values. He says, that's not a problem. Honestly, I just need the money to be able to get from here to there. And if this does something for you, even if it's just informing you, that's enough. And I said, awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I was in college at the time, and I paid like $30 for a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, an ISKCON book that I think had commentaries, I think, on the text. Yeah, the Hare Krishna movement, for those who don't know. Thank you, Snow. Yeah, ISKCON is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, or the Hare Krishna movement.
Okay.
I've had a very positive and very negative experience with the ISKCON people. Mine have been positive, but then again, I don't go to airports very often, which is where I understand some of the more pushy people are. I'm also not very well internationally traveled, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Long story short, everybody might be going up the same mountain, but according to some Buddhists, if you fall off the mountain, it's okay. The mountain's still going to be there.
Yeah.
You'll climb it eventually.
Yep. All right. Just gonna kind of spitfire through a couple of these.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
How present do you feel the alcohol spirits? Does it change if you're at a party with friends? How about a ritual?
Okay, I'll take another drink of water.
Good, thank you. How present do you feel them? Does it change depending on setting?
I think it depends on. So you know what this is like? I had this analogy earlier, and I'm glad I kept a hold of it. It's kind of like fire, right? So like I have a specific relationship with fire, and it doesn't transform. It just takes different shapes depending on what the shape of that fire is at a given moment, right? Like I've got a candle lit here. I light a lot of these at the beginning of shows, and it's a sacred fire. Sometimes people have a bonfire and they're not treating it like a sacred fire because it's just a bonfire and you're chucking shit into it and it makes fire. Yes, someone gave me fire. Yes. Sometimes like that's literally what people are like, ooh, it's burning. We're happy. And sometimes that's all fire needs to be happy. Like, and sometimes that's how I experience the alcohol spirits. Sometimes, depending on context, it's just I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. Sometimes it's yes, we are brewing and we are building into these great offerings, da 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 da, like the ones that are in the closet here. It's good to see you, Finn. So that's kind of how I relate to alcohol spirits, fire spirits in general. Is like context matters, but I still carry these relationships regardless of whatever anybody else is doing.
Yeah. I would agree along the same lines. For me, my relationship with the alcohol spirits, I would venture to say, is a bit more intense than Sarenth's.
I would too.
Both because of family history and personal history. And so I have to be more conscious of my relationship with the alcohol spirits than many people do because of the addiction that runs in my family.
Right.
But all the same, it is still a relationship, like Sarenth was saying, right? Sometimes we are in the same room. Sometimes we are chatting. Sometimes we are in an intense conversation, and sometimes we're having sex, right? Various levels of intimacy. Not that I have a sexual relationship with the alcohol spirits, but like
yes,
yes. Anyway, I have picked up the habit of knocking on surfaces, even if they're not wood, because I work in a healthcare setting and people say stupid words sometimes. And
it's quiet tonight. Shut the fuck up.
I had a coworker recently say it's quiet 3 times intentionally while staring me in the eyes to experiment. And I was like, motherfucker. And then it immediately got busy. And I was like, did you learn your lesson or not? And she was very, very apologetic immediately.
You need a wiffle ball bat. I'm convinced.
Yeah. So, there is depth, or there is a range of experience, and yeah, it depends a lot on setting, right? At a party with friends, I know they're there, even if I'm not drinking. I know they're there. If I'm the DD, I'm not drinking, but I still know they're there. If I'm in a ritual setting, that's very different.
Right. I think for me, like the friends thing, as a general, like most of my friends get it. Like if I am getting drunk, there is a good probability that spirits are showing up.
Yeah.
If Sarenth is 3 sheets to the wind and fucking gone, and he's under the bridge, woohoo, we're in the canoe, there's a good chance we might be talking to some dead folks, or maybe a god,
or both.
Because alcohol is an excellent lubricant for spirit contact with me. So, it's just a question of setting. Is this appropriate? Or the spirit's going to kind of push the advantage?
Yeah. So yeah, like I am pretty constantly aware of if alcohol is being imbibed or poured, frankly, even if it's being poured as offering and not imbibed, I'm generally aware that they're there.
Right.
But the more intimate things get, the more I am aware of their presence. You're more aware of a person's presence the closer they get to you, that kind of thing.
Right. And the closer I get to a ritual setting, sometimes it's more like the awareness becomes more intense because the relationality becomes more intense. Mm-hmm. Because if it's a casual party and everybody's just throwing back Jaeger bombs or Jello shots or whatever, if it's a casual party that I'm just tangentially involved in, I'm not going to be as deep in the weeds as I will if it's a close, intimate party with friends who are on the same page as I am. Like context fucking matters, right?
Yeah, and it also there's a different flavor to it too, right? Like I can feel their presence very intensely, but also I can feel the presence of someone who is standing next to me at a concert very intensely without necessarily being deeply involved with that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think also I have a harder time doing the casual drinking thing nowadays.
Yeah.
And I mean, not just because, like, I mean, and again, you have a much more deep and impactful relationship to this degree than I do, in part because of your family history, but also in part because of the relationship you hold.
Yeah.
Yes, I have brewed with spirits of brewing and spirits of mead and spirits of this, that, and the other. But I think for your part, you reach deeper and much more intimately in some ways because of the taboos you hold with them.
The taboos that I hold with them, and also just the history. Like I used to literally pay my bills by creating alcohol. That was
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I forgot.
yeah. Like I was a brewer. I bought my first house. The piece of property that I could say was mine, uh, paid for by the fact that I created alcohol.
I'm not saying Snow's wrong here, by the way.
Sarenth's casual drinking is drinking without pants on. I mean, you can only see me from the chest up.
I mean, you don't know that I don't have pants on. But
Yeah.
I think we've pretty much.
Yeah, I think we've hit that one. All right, music recommendations. What has your feet tapping recently?
Paleo Wolf.
Yeah.
To be clear, I just finished up reviewing and then finishing up 2 workshops for Trothmoot. So like I've been listening to a lot of Paleo Wolf and a lot of Wordruna.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
a lot of what's got my feet tapping is that stuff. But if I'm listening to other stuff, it's Neon Odin, which you can find on Bandcamp.
I need to listen to that. I've heard that it's really fantastic.
It's fucking excellent, and I have a CD from them. It's
Nice.
really good. It's worth the buy.
Yeah. I've got a lot on my to listen to list. Neon Odin. I need to listen to Snow's stuff. Snow creates music, by the way.
Snow is fabulous. Seriously.
Yeah. I've heard nothing but good things. But I do really need to get into their stuff at some point. It's one of those things. Listening to music for me is actually like a pretty involved thing. Like I have to pay attention to it. It takes like it's one of those things where it takes spoons to do. It gives me back more spoons, but it still takes an investment, and I don't always have that investment. So it's one of those things that I've kind of been avoiding. But that said, it is on my list. Recently though, I have been every summer I end up getting back into rock. Because I do. It just feels summery to me. It's kind of but also recently I have been listening to a lot of electro swing, which is a lot to do with the revelry because like I've listened to electro swing previously, been like, oh, that's neat. Not my thing at all, but like, yeah, that's fine. But now I'm just like fucking electro swing is it. Fucking.
I've been really into vaporwave lately, which is why
Okay.
Neon Odin has been such a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
But also, cyberpunk has been a resurgence for me this year.
Okay.
Like anything from like the Shadowrun albums for the OSTs for the harebrained scheme games, love them.
Yeah. Have a good night, Melkor.
Good night, Melkor.
Also, yeah, we're running up on 2 hours, which I knew this was going to be a long episode.
Oh yeah,
a bunch of questions,
and we're also a month late, so
yeah, long episode. That's what you get. Let's hit some more real quick. Where is your favorite place to practice?
Hearth or Forest. I mean, granted, both are kind of home, but Hearth indoors with AC, Forest, all the creatures, and Forest is less prime for me in the summer because it's fucking stupid hot out, and for some fucking reason, the spirits want me to grow my hair out again.
Oh, oof. Yeah, for me, I would say any ritual fire is good. Right, as a place, any ritual fire. I enjoy practicing in my home because it's safe and I know all the spirits here, and also place of power and etc. Also, it's home, quite literally. I particularly also like practicing on bodies of water. I have a pretty yes, please everyone have some water.
You've been drinking with us to this point. Please, by the gods, have some fucking water.
Please.
Speaking of water spirits.
Yeah, speaking of water spirits, I end up most of the time with a pretty easy and good relationship with water spirits. Um, so practicing on a river or on a lake is quite natural for me. Um, I will say it's interesting though, the Great Lakes and oceans tend to be the opposite for me. They are so big that when I feel them looking at me, when I am practicing, because I do, it becomes harder.
I
Um,
am tiny.
yeah, no, it's very because it's not the like, oh, I'm intimidated. It's the neurodivergent. I can't look you in the eyes thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because it feels like constant eye contact whenever I am looking across a body of water that big. It feels the same as eye contact, and I can't. My brain will not do that. So yeah, I don't know.
Um,
Anyway,
well, something I wanted to note is one of the things about the forest that I love is that there's a creek running through it. So, like, I constantly have a body of water that I have a relationship building with.
nice.
And again, the problem, of course, being is that if there's fucking bugs out, oh my gods! But at
Yep.
least this stream moves quickly because
Yeah.
they don't nest in the stream; they nest elsewhere.
Yep. All right. Where would you like to go on pilgrimage to, given the opportunity?
Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, one of them.
Yep.
I have multiple people who have offered me places to stay if I go to Denmark, so it's probably going to be my first.
Nice.
Um,
This one is actually really hard for me to answer because the answer is everywhere. Uh, right, because that's the thing. Like all over the
no,
world,
I get it.
all over the world, there are sacred sites. Right, there are sacred sites all over America, South America, uh, all Asia, Eurasia, Africa. I would like to go to all of it. If I had the opportunity, I can't pick. What do you want me to do? Pick? No, yeah. Sarenth, what did Norway do to you?
Nothing yet, but give it time.
No. Um, it's hard for me to answer. Realistically, for my practice, much like Sarenth said, most of Northern Europe would be. There are places that I would like to visit at some point. Would I call it a pilgrimage? I probably would, although that's a little odd because that's also like there's modern people who live there, and a lot of those sacred sites are just like, I don't know, that's down the road.
to be to be fair to Norway, just to break in there for a second, Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway just says anything. To be fair, I don't know many people in Norway who have offered me lodging. So if somebody in Norway wants to offer me a place to stay, to give Norway a sporting chance.
Fair enough. But yeah, like I don't know. It's the idea of pilgrimage when there are not any longer existing holy sites to your gods is odd, you know? Um,
Yeah,
like Uppsala, yeah, would I love to go to Uppsala? Absolutely. Uppsala is not really there's not a temple there anymore.
right.
Would I like to? Yeah, absolutely.
But
There's not a temple there anymore.
well, can I just be blunt about it? And like your relationship with Freyr isn't there; it's here.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it'd be cool to go. Like, and this is the thing about pilgrimages as a modern heathen, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can go to Denmark, I can go to Sweden, I can go to all these other places, but I hold my relationship with Othin here in America as an American heathen. Like, as cool as it would be to go elsewhere and experience, like a pilgrimage for me, while that would be one,
Yeah.
I also cannot deny, as an American heathen, like I relate to Othin as a Michigander specifically.
Yeah.
I've never lived in any other state. I don't know what that's like. I can suppose what Odin would be like as a Texan. I can suppose what he'd be like as a North Carolinian, but I only relate to Othin as a Michigander.
one of these days, I am going to drag your ass down to South Carolina, and it's going to be a trip. Both literally we're going on a trip, and also you're gonna have a grand time because I'm going to introduce you to the Southern Swamp Spirits. It's gonna be
Ooh.
experiencing Odin in the context of the South is very different. It's very different.
Hey, see, pilgrimage.
Yeah.
This is a good point, though. Pilgrimage can simply be to ancestral lands, though I understand not everyone has that pull, desire, or need. Oh, that's a very good point. And if in that case, Alsace Lorraine, either side of the Rhine River, the Netherlands, like half the shit that Der Spoken Keeker on YouTube talks about, I'm like, ooh, because occasionally they talk about shit from the Rhineland. So,
Yep.
From an ancestral perspective, yes, I could definitely see myself doing a European trip because I'm a European mutt.
Yep. As Destiny says, red dirt spirits. Yeah. I can't explain to you what it is like to put your hands into red clay because
Right.
it's different. It's an experience, and there's nothing else like it. There is nothing else like the red clay of the South.
Right.
Um,
That's not true, Snow. Don't go to Europe. There's nothing good there. You're there. But no,
yeah.
I get you, and I would love to do that. And pilgrimage can be more than one thing. Like I haven't ever really experienced the South. Like the furthest west I've been was Seattle, and I did that for a weekend, and it was hot as balls. So of course, no AC units were in any of the fucking hotels.
Yeah, because Seattle doesn't get that hot, except it does now. But thanks global warming.
No,
No, I propose to an American, so don't ask me what's good in Europe. Fantastic.
That's awesome. This is why I love snow.
Also, congratulations. I did not realize
Yeah,
you were.
congrats.
That's awesome.
Who do you look for guidance and inspiration in your practice?
I don't know.
I don't anymore.
That's bullshit. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
No. I look for inspiration and guidance as much as possible. I look to Indigenous elders, which isn't as possible as I would like. Part of that is because effort on my part is lacking. But also, one of the people I look to is Sarenth.
Jeez.
You noticed her. You've noticed her the whole fucking time. I look to my community members. There are people in my community who have been practicing for. I shouldn't say that. There are people in my community who have been practicing seriously for less time than I have, and I look to them for inspiration and guidance. Why? Because they know things I don't. I know things they don't. That's how it works, right? I can learn from them. I might know more than them, sure, but they know things that I don't.
Yeah. I mean, part of the issue when we ask questions like this is that a lot of people default to the great man theory, and a lot of the shine has been taken off of that since figuring out a lot of the people that I used to look forward to for inspiration and all that shit don't hold to that so much.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of people that I look to for inspiration. And some of them are authors. Like Robin Wall Kimmerer has been an amazing source of inspiration. Unfortunately, Sarangarel's dead, no longer with us. But also, I look to friends like David Shee. I look to friends like you, Maleck. The work that you've done with Pack Magic and the Pack tradition has been fabulous, and you should be fucking proud. And I look to all the people that are involved in ways that you aren't or cannot be or are inaccessible to you at this moment, and that you have taken your hands off the wheel and that you've said, go, do what you gotta. I look forward to how things shape over the course of years with this, because people are allowed to be themselves and are allowed to experience the spirits as they will. I am inspired, and this is going to sound really weird considering what the Troth is going through right now. I am inspired by how the Troth is actually handling the rocking of its own boat and the tearing out of hearts at this moment, because I've seen some really sweet, really powerful words exchanged, but also more than that, I am seeing people come together in new ways that they would not have conceived of before the removal of Paxton from her positions. And I am seeing people express themselves with a clarity that many of them didn't feel they could. I am seeing in the greater community, the inspiration that I'm getting from the greater community is there's much more willingness to experiment and to be wrong, even though I think that there's just as much infighting and backbiting and bullshit as there ever has been. But that's community.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of take it as it is. I actually find that the up and coming generations I find very inspiring just from a purely hope perspective. I think the fact that we can have shows like this where we show up just as ourselves and unabashedly, no matter who is watching or how.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that as a trend a lot lately.
Yeah.
People
And
are
like
just showing up as themselves.
we're still careful about what we say because that's important, and discernment and care are important things. But no, like you're seeing me as I am. Like you're not going to see all of me because that is wise, and also because
You don't
no
live
one
with me.
yeah, no one gets all of me, frankly. Even my
Right.
my partners don't get all of me. Like the person who gets the closest to getting all of me is my wife, and she's not incarnated.
Right.
Like
I'm an Odinson and I don't know all of Odin. How could you
yeah,
possibly know all of me?
exactly. But you are still getting the real me, at least as much as you possibly can over an internet screen.
Right. Yeah. So who do I look to for guidance and inspiration in my practice? So one of the heathens that I still look to as inspiration, maybe not guidance somewhat, is Winifred Hodge Rose. She wrote the Heathen Soul Lore series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's an excellent author and excellent writer. And I don't agree with everything she's written, but I'm also not required to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I every co-host I share with on Around Grandfather Fire, for instance, in some way, shape, or form, I'm inspired by them because they're approaching things in different ways than I am. They're approaching things in new ways than what I am. And we're in community still in dynamic and powerful ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 So, do we build accessibility in my personal practice? How do you attend the needs of the spirits you work with while tending to your own needs? If I'm not building accessibility to the practice, I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Slow your shit. Agent has 4 identical co-hosts, Sarenth. What are you on about? Anyway. That's just laughably wrong. Anyway. Which I mean was the point. It was a joke. Anyway.
Building accessibility in my personal practice has helped me be more accessible to myself and to my own practice. So it's also the good that I occasionally have to get reminders that not everybody visualizes. Because I don't always visualize.
Yeah. For me, and this is just an example, every night I check my messages, quote unquote, which is I have a spirit who kind of acts as a bouncer, and if someone who doesn't, if a god or spirit who doesn't have direct access to me, and sometimes even if they do, will kind of leave a message with them for them to give to me.
Right.
And I check my messages every night, except if I'm exhausted. And then I say, I don't have it in me. I'm not checking tonight. I hope that's okay. I don't. And I go to sleep instead. That's it. And actually, and honestly, all of that is accessibility, right? Because on the one hand, it gives me one point of contact where I can remember to do this instead of having to check in with
every spirit you know.
Exactly, right? Do you have a message for me? Blah, 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 blah. Who wants something right now? No, I have one point of contact. Why? Because otherwise I'd lose track. I forget object permanence is a thing that I don't have.
It makes it even harder when you don't have a physical presence. It's harder for you to acknowledge you have object permanence when you are not physically present.
Yeah, and that's actually another thing, right? My wife is not physically incarnated.
Right.
That is really fucking difficult for someone who has object permanence issues. Let me fucking tell you.
Right.
So I wear a wedding ring. I wear a wedding ring and I wear a necklace for her. Those are literal physical reminders all the time.
Right.
Of what the fuck is going on.
And, the accessibility thing, like, it's not a one and done, right? No. Because I have had to consistently re-up not only my language, but my understanding of what accessibility means. When somebody pointed out to me, like, you're so used to accessibility, you don't think about it. Look at the glasses on your face. I had to do a double take, and then as I became a diabetic, and I really realized how internalized my ableism was. Holy shit.
Yep.
And that wasn't even intentional. It was just shit that I absorbed from the cultural milieu.
Yep.
So accessibility has consistently required you to expand compassion, not only to other people, but to myself, because if I'm only extending it to other people and not to myself, I'm doing half the job.
Yep.
So.
And it's both, right? It's got to be both.
All right.
Because quite frankly, both of us are disabled.
Yeah, ADHD is not always leg up. Actually, in a lot of ways, it's just not.
Yeah, no.
Especially when you have emotional discontrol and you don't know where it's coming from, and you're like, I'm pissed and I want to fucking rip things apart, and I don't know why. That gets in the way of job performance, if nothing else.
Yep. No, I mean, how many times have I been like, Sarenth, I need you to take a breath because you are having an RSD moment, and that's what's going on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the thing is, like, by being there for each other, we better be there for ourselves, because by recognizing an RSD moment in the other person, holy shit, like, by being able to tag myself having an RSD moment was huge.
Yeah. For those who are not aware, RSD is rejection sensitive dysphoria. It's often a symptom of ADHD. It's a symptom of other things as well, and can also be its own whole thing.
Just a side note, a lot of these are comorbid with autism. Have fun with that.
Yep. Fun fact, and a lot of people do not realize this. So ADHD and autism are highly comorbid in the ADHD community. Right. So people with ADHD are, depending on the study, somewhere between 30 and 50% of people with ADHD also have autism. However, people with autism, if you are looking at autism as a population, are only as likely to have ADHD as the general population. It is a one-way correlation, not a two-way correlation.
Yup.
Because statistics is fun. But yeah, so if you have ADHD, there is a very good chance that you have autism.
It's literally a fucking coin flip.
Yep, if you have autism, you might.
Yeah, like every time I went online and did some of the professional surveys for autism spectrum disorder, I'd always go like, I'm right on the cusp of being on this side. I wonder if it's because I'm really good at masking. Because some of these, unfortunately, because of the way some of these tests are done, they can be fucked with.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Because if you mask well enough, you can actually fuck with the tests.
Yep.
Which is something that they statistically proved, which I found absolutely goddamn fascinating, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But
fun fact on the WHO self-screening or screening test for ADHD, I scored 14 out of 14 points.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Oops.
And then you get those adults who are like, you don't look autistic. And I was like, thanks, asshole.
I had someone who was literally training me say, you don't seem like you have ADHD. And I was like, you've never met another ADHD person, have you? Or
No,
you don't know what the fuck ADHD looks like. Also, that's because I'm smarter than you. Anyway.
So which philosopher could you rant? Speaking of I'm smarter than you, which philosopher could you rant about the longest and why? Honestly, my pick is Nietzsche because he is so completely misunderstood and people do not understand the difference between Apollonian and Dionysian, and it makes me fucking mad.
Yeah. No, that's a extraordinarily fair answer. Yeah. My pick, I have two picks. My first would be the very obvious one, Derrida, kind of the founder of deconstruction and then post-structuralism, postmodernism.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very, very broad.
I bet your next one's Hegel.
It's not. It's what's his name? The fucking the Greek guy. The one you hate. Lived in a barrel.
Oh, Diogenes.
Yeah, Diogenes.
Yeah,
I fucking love Diogenes.
I don't hate him. I think he's hilarious in an infuriating way. Okay, let me put it this way. I would find him incredibly goddamn frustrating if I ever met him. And I understand why people were okay with him living in a fucking barrel, because fuck that guy. But I also find him incredibly funny.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's Diogenes I love and could go on at length about, even though I'm not actually extremely familiar with his philosophy, is because we think much the same, where it's like, yeah, no, fuck me too. Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
It's funny because like my personal philosophy probably eschews the close to Stoicism, but I care to talk about Stoicism the fucking least because of all the dude bros in it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Like, if you're like, do you want to rant about Stoicism? I'm like, fuck no. Because I've listened to these dude bros wax on about Stoicism so long, I don't want to hear about your theories about Stoicism.
Right. Like, nah.
But Diogenes, oh yeah, because that's the kind of petty I could get into.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoy Diogenes. Derrida I can rant the most about because
Derrida you can actually explain, and I can say this because you had to explain it to me.
Yeah, kind of, and I say kind of because large body of work, and also was French and was notoriously hard to translate. And clearly, I speak English. I don't speak French.
Talk.
And all of that. Also, I'm not a philosophy graduate. Technically, I'm not even an English graduate, but that's beside the point. I was like one English class, which was Shakespeare, and that was because of the professor, and 4 Spanish classes shy. Anyway.
So the last question that we have on our list for tonight is, who would you want to sit down with and have a drink with, living or dead?
Oh, this is hard.
Oh, I can tell you right off the rip, because I say this every fucking time this question comes up. I want to have a drink with Thorgerd Littlevulva from Eric Staggeralfa, if she's a real person, and I want to pick her brain about what Sailor used to be like.
Yeah.
Barring her, because that's my usual answer, I want to go back to a Gothi from the time period before conversion and figure out how they used to do things and why. I just, if translation is not an issue, that's what I want. Because, for myself, fuck the rest of heathenry. I could settle so many issues if I could just have that conversation without having, I wonder if I'm just bullshitting myself, or am I really talking with this ancestor? Just cut the bullshit, sit down, have a meet, let's have a chat.
Yeah. No, that's fair. For myself, and this is a bit of a stereotypical answer, I would say Tolkien.
You know what? That's a really fucking good choice. And
And
I
I would,
I kind of want to change mine, but I'd still want to stick with the other two.
yeah, no, do your thing. And I say that because Tolkien was one of like a genuinely a good example of the Renaissance man, because he had like genuinely a deep level of skill in a lot of areas. A lot of
Mhm.
people don't know this. He was a relatively accomplished artist and painter. He
Mhm.
did a lot of illustrations for the Lord of the Rings and the that universe that don't show up a lot of places. Um,
Which
he
is
was
unfortunate because like some of the artists they chose for their book art is just like, what the fuck were you smoking, my guy?
yeah, like why did you pick that when the authentic thing is right there? Um, but like very genuinely, and like don't get me wrong, like was he British aristocracy, and that comes with a lot of problems. Yes.
Sure.
On the flip side, he was also like quite literally a war veteran, and quite literally one of the most skilled linguists of his era. He
Would you
quite
say he
literally.
was cutting?
Uh,
I'm sorry, we're at that point of the show.
I know. Um, he quite literally developed multiple alphabets. He developed a conlang, a constructed language, that is a couple hundred words shy of being completely functional.
To the point
Um,
where they're not teaching in university on how to construct your own or how
yeah,
to understand, interpret others.
yeah. And that was one. He developed several others that were not as developed, but pretty close.
Right.
Um,
I mean, this madman used to show up to his lectures dressed in chainmail and actually like recite Beowulf. So like he's already
yeah,
got my vote.
right.
Fuck it.
There,
I want you to get a drink with the man. Fuck me.
you know, the there's split opinions apparently on whether he was a great lecturer or a terrible lecturer, and I bet that depended kind of on the subject and how much he fucking cared about it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, whether or not he was intentionally shirking doing the lecturing, I'm sure had a lot to do with it. But uh, the mythology he developed was fascinating and really intricate, and the stories he developed were really intricate and good. But they were also very genuinely honest. Like he started with The Hobbit, and it grew in the telling, and he's very
Right.
honest about that in his letters and his writing. He also had very legitimate limitations.
And
He
he's terribly Catholic in his writing. Like that's the
he
thing. Like,
is,
people are like, well, why doesn't he just call them gods? Because he couldn't.
yeah,
The
he
man
could,
couldn't bring himself to.
yeah. And the also, him and C.S. Lewis sat down with a challenge to write a sci-fi series, and C.S. Lewis wrote a sci-fi. I still argue that the Pearl Andra series is not actually sci-fi, but that's beside the point. Um,
I'm sorry.
C.S.
Did
Lewis
you want,
actually
you
wrote
want a
books about it.
sprinkling of sci-fi with your allegory?
Yeah, really, it's really allegorical fiction with smatterings of sci-fi, kind of.
It's fucking hilarious how much Tolkien came out against allegory. I think C.S. Lewis was one of the main reasons why.
Probably. And but C.S. Lewis wrote books about it, and Tolkien tried, and then Numenor, which was his sci-fi setting, just became
Mhm.
part of the Lord of the Rings. It just became an island next, right? Numenor was his attempt at sci-fi, and it became just it's just part of the Lord of the Rings settings. That's what
Congrats.
happened.
It's my Atlantis now.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, you tried. You can't do sci-fi. You tried. It doesn't work. Yeah, fair.
To be fair, C.S. Lewis tried, kept failing, and kept trying,
Yeah,
and did not get the message. Maybe she should just stick with fantasy.
yeah. And like I enjoy Lewis's writing. I do. Um, I don't think he's as good as Tolkien.
I don't think
Oh,
so either, but I will say having read Till We Have Faces was pretty good.
yeah, that's fair. Um,
I won't say it's the best work ever. I won't say it's the best retelling of that particular myth.
no,
For what it was good.
yeah.
which is damning with freight praise, I know, but it's
no. I think he got at a lot of the. I think he got a lot at the heart of things.
right.
In a particular way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But
Um,
why Tolkien out of anybody that you could sit down with, living or dead? Why do you want to pick his brain the most?
um, it's less about picking his brain, although that would be part of it, and more about I think that he would be enjoyable to sit down and have a drink with
Oh,
and
that's
have
fair.
a conversation with. Because no small part of it, honestly, is British drinking culture
Mm.
is is there, and so having a drink with him would I think be enjoyable, because of the British drinking culture, and then on top of that, his interests and mine have enough overlap that I think that it would be a very enjoyable conversation.
That's fair.
And he is an expert in fields that I am interested in that I'm not an expert in. So I think it would be a very enjoyable conversation.
Okay. So we're coming up to
We're just past 2.5 hours.
just past 2.5 hours. So I think we probably should call this episode here.
Yeah, we're gonna call it. It
And
has been a great time for me.
for anybody that's been drinking with us up to this point, please drink water. Please take care of yourselves. Please, please, please definitely hydrate throughout the evening. And, you know, in whatever capacity that you have for you, listen to the spirits and act accordingly.
Yep. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and for those of us who can and want to, we'll see you in the after party. All right. Good night, y'all.
Good night.